depend on drugs. I take drugs every day as I'm seated here. I'm diabetic, so I take drugs every day, and the cost of drugs are going higher and higher every day. So it's first-hand experience, not that somebody is telling me, because I depend on drugs.
But contrary to what you're saying, according to the presidency, this executive order was aimed at promoting the following things. First, access to, pharmaceuticals, very affordability. That's what the presidency is telling us about. And then improved growth in terms of industries for local production and all of that. So as against what you're saying now, it looks as if the presidency and his economic team is looking at this from a different perspective.
You see,
so who is actually saying the truth now? Is it the economist or is it Mr. President? Because he has an economic team that he's working with.
Yes, because right from the beginning, people were made to believe that the presidency is implementing policies that have been fashioned by the IMF and the World Bank. And these were some of the policies that other past presidents resisted. Because even the President Buhari, they wanted him to devalue the naira. He said no. To merge
to unify the exchange
yes,
rate, yes.
He said no. And then some of these other policies, right from Jonathan down to this, they resisted these policies. But when he came in, he went into it and was not even prepared for it. Because one of the major policies was the removal of fuel subsidy. How can you, as a president, you are just coming and you say that subsidy is removed and that is it? And yet now, they are still paying subsidy. So he was supposed to have thought out some of those things. And before you remove subsidy in any economy, there are certain measures you have to put in place that will cushion the effect of the subsidy.
When it comes to subsidy, Prof, I always, the issue is very dicey. You cannot really pinpoint that this is. Well, could it be that Mr. President took responsibility for subsidy removal, or he actually removed subsidy? Because I want to quote him directly. He said, subsidy is gone. Now, from what we had, the information we had available, subsidy was not paid for by the past administration. The last budgetary, arrangement didn't include subsidy by President Muhammadu Buhari. But why President Muhammadu Buhari didn't announce was another thing. And why President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was very quick to announcing it. But remember what he said, that whether we protest, no matter how long we protest, subsidy is gone. Now, the question is, could it be that Mr. President actually saw what this subsidy removal is going to bring to Nigeria, that he insisted that no matter what, it is gone?
Yeah, the general belief was that very few people were benefiting from the subsidy.
Yes.
The marketers and the importers of fuel. Yeah. These were the people that were. But before then, I believe that it was NNPC that was importing fuel. Because NNPC is a government company. So they were supposed to know exactly. The major problem was that how much subsidy was being paid, nobody knew. Because you are supposed to determine subsidy based on the landing price of a liter of fuel. And by our own calculations, what they were saying was different from what was happening. Because as at the time subsidy was removed, they said they were paying a subsidy of 70%. And then if it is 70%, when the price of when subsidy was removed, the price of fuel jumped from 194 naira, yes, to about 500 and something. That was a percentage of close to 200. Yes. So if it was only 70%, why did the price change by almost 200%?
Now,
so that's the question we should ask.
Yes.
And then secondly, we were talking about the subsidy being removed. Yes, the subsidy was provided for up to June of 2023.
Yes.
By the former president Buhari. But there was 1 month for the current president to be in office before the end of the subsidy. Yes. So he could have exercised patience until the end of June before announcing subsidy is gone. Or alternatively, he could have made a supplementary budget to take care of the subsidy.
Prof, but I remember when this policy was put in place, you were one of the chief advocates.
Yes.
On this television, I can't remember the number of times you
I
supported.
even now, I'm still supporting fuel subsidy. My problem, even then, was that measures that were supposed to be put in place before the removal of subsidy were not put in place. That has always been my argument.
So how do you feel now that you have, crude has been sold up front in the country you didn't know, and so you supported subsidy? Now that you have realized that crude has been sold up front by the Nigerian government.
That is true, but that alone wouldn't have created the problem we have today. So all this is because of the insincerity of the government. Because if government were sincere, we would have had all those informations available. And then the current president, I'm very sure that the current president was aware of what was happening, and that was why he was supposed to be more careful in saying subsidy was gone.
But don't you think with this way things are in the country right now, don't you think that the economic team is actually perpetuating the policies of IMF? Because whether you like it or not, especially former President Olusegun Obasanjo, he was adamantly against the policies of IMF.
Yeah.
Now, so don't you think that even with the qualifications, or let me say the professional expertise of our CBN governor, don't you think that this is in a way perpetuating the policies of IMF at the expense of Nigerians?
That is true. Because just like we said, most of these policies that are being implemented by the current government are policies that IMF have been fighting for implementation in this country. And you know that any policy that IMF is pursuing does not have any positive effect on the local economy.
And then this now brings us to the question.
Yeah.
Is Central Bank of Nigeria not old enough? Because it's a policy making bank. It's an apex. And it's supposed to regulate the economy of our country. Is Central Bank of Nigeria not old enough to say bye to IMF and take the responsibility of restructuring the economic status of our country? Why are we still talking IMF?
That is what.
Well, almost all the presidents that came on board in this country never supported the IMF policies.
Thank you very much. That is the point we are arguing about. Because even though there is no country that is completely independent,
Yes.
we are supposed to take our destiny in our hands. And that is what the Central Bank of Nigeria is supposed to do. Because the Central Bank of Nigeria is in charge of monetary policy in this country. And you see, most of these monetary policies are aimed in complementarity with fiscal policy to bring about some relief. Because whatever policy the central bank does may be countered by the fiscal authorities. And the fiscal authority is the Ministry of Finance and that is government expenditure and the rest of them. So they are supposed to work as a team. Because whatever policy you are putting in place, this one is supposed to, okay, this one and this one. Because we talk about policy mix.
Yes.
So that we can succeed.
So what's your feeling towards the
my
man,
feeling is
Cardoso,
that
the central bank boss?
Central bank governor now
Cardoso.
is not doing what he's supposed to do.
What about Mr. Wale Edun himself?
Mr. Wale Edun, because you see, I don't want to be political because I'm not even a politician.
No, we're just trying to be objective.
But what I'm
here,
trying
yes.
to say is that Wale Edun and
Cardoso,
these are the same people that, at the end of it, they said that they developed the Lagos economy. So the president just lifted the people he was using when he was governor of Lagos to bring to Abuja. And so they are towing the same path. I know that the cost of living in Lagos is very high.
And Lagos is more of an elitist state.
Yes, and Lagos is more of an elitist. They are forgetting that we have a lot of rural settlements in Nigeria. People that are not exposed to some of those things. So they are supposed to put in place policies that will save majority of Nigerians.
Now, Prof, there is another thing that I have been able to investigate. I have realized that most of the countries that are working well, pharmaceuticals are highly subsidized. This is to enable even the lowest person in the society access them.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, for a very long time, the Nigerian government has been trying to fix the issue of high rates on pharmaceuticals. It has never come to fruition. Even the one at the moment that we are talking about now, we have not seen any iota of implementation. What can we do as a nation to get off the issue of high rates on pharmaceuticals? Are we not mature as a nation enough to start full production of all pharmaceuticals? You remember that India is what it is today because of this pharmaceutical state. The level of production of pharmaceuticals in India is what has made them, that's their main source of income. Why is it so? We have the raw materials here and everything. Why is it so difficult for us to have our pharmaceutical industries up and doing and producing?
That's a very serious question you have asked too. And you know that we have been talking about lack of will on the part of government. You see, most of the problems we have in this country are problems that can be easily solved. That's the truth. For instance, Nigerian pharmacists are rated very, very high.
Yeah.
Very, very high. Anywhere you go, you must see a Nigerian in fact, any top profession in the world that you think of, a Nigerian will be there. It's left for us to harness these resources that we have and use them for the good of this country. But, for instance, when you bring a Nigerian doctor to come and work in Nigeria, the environment, the conditions are not good for the doctor to operate, because all efforts will be aimed at frustrating him. The first, I think a doctor in UI developed the first test tube baby in Nigeria, I think in the 80s or so, or early 90s. And other doctors in Nigeria frustrated that. In other countries, when efforts are being made at research, they are encouraged. In Nigeria, we don't encourage research at all. Look at what happened to Abaraka when he was talking about developing something about a cure for AIDS.
Yeah.
Look at the frustration he faced. In fact, at one point he was even arrested. So these are the problems we have. So no matter the efforts our research institutes or our researchers are doing, they are not being complemented by the government. Because one, if I develop a research that will be of assistance, we expect that the government should come to my aid, provide the resources, because in most cases you don't have the resources to do it. But if you know that this is something that is going to help this nation, then you are supposed to invest in it.
So this goes to say that the government doesn't protect local content.
No, it's not.
And
It's not protecting. It's not encouraging. Look at what is happening. I think on this television I say something about innocent. Because if Nigeria wants to encourage local production of vehicles, we have about 2-3 vehicle. What are they assembly? They are still assembling, but at least they are producing. The body is being produced here in Nigeria. It's the engines that are being imported. You encourage them. For instance, you say that okay, all government functionaries should not buy Toyota, and they should go for Innocent. Then you know that the market for Innocent will be boosted. But look at what is happening. Right from the presidency.
You're not talking about Dangote refinery, which is being
that is the same
prospected,
thing.
yes.
That is what we are saying. Okay, look at how long did it take Dangote to build that refinery, which is considered to be the biggest in Africa.
Yeah.
How long? I think just about 4 or 5 years. And look at how long it has taken the government to refurbish already
part of the program thus far. Let's continue. Prof, just like we said, I was trying to ask you, the executive order is one of the most express Mr. President could ever pass in any country that is democratic. Our refineries, the Warri, the Port Harcourt, the Lagos, the Kaduna, all our major refineries have been moribund for since Jonathan was on scene.
Since Obasanjo.
Since Obasanjo. Because, but of course, during the time of Obasanjo, at the time we have some skeletal services.
Yes,
you understand?
It was producing. Then he was the person that started the whole process of refurbishing those refineries.
Good. Now we have had how many years running? PDP came on board, ruled for 16 years. Refineries never came back. APC has come on board now. You know how long APC has stayed?
9 years plus.
9 years plus. And still counting. Our refineries are still down. Why is it difficult for Mr. President to pass executive order on the issue of revitalization of refineries?
I told you from the beginning, the political will. Because all the monies, trillions of naira has been spent on refurbishing those refineries. And none of them has come to. Because if, like I said from the beginning, if you want these refineries to work, you know what to do. Because the people working there sometimes are the ones that are even frustrating the working of these refineries. So the money that has been spent on refurbishing these refineries is enough to build 1-2 new refineries. So the president could have just given a directive that build a new refinery, or would have sacked everybody working in those refineries and then recruited new people. But the problem we have in Nigeria is that you know that something is wrong. For you to take action, no action will be taken. For instance, if I give you a responsibility of refurbishing this refinery, you give me your bills, I pay you money. So if you don't make sure that these refineries are working, I sack you and you refund the money that I paid you. If you do that to 1 or 2 persons, nothing like that will happen again. But this is the problem. Like I was saying, for the past more than 20 years, these refineries have not been producing. They have a lot of staff. In fact, they're even recruiting new staff and paying them salaries amounting to billions of naira every year. So tell me, because under normal circumstances, assuming that I'm a private, assuming that Dangote, because that's the person with the refinery that we know, if the refinery is not working, will Dangote retain the staff in that refinery? He will sack them, except the critical ones that will be used in maintaining the something. But this is what is happening, and that is what is happening in almost every government institution. Because something will fail, we know that this is not working, yet the staff will be there, everybody will be there. The government will not come out. For instance, I was reading through the papers, and I saw that this what do you call them? This discos manning our electricity sector. Some of them are not doing well. So simply sack them and engage other people. I know the manner in which the discos were even engaged was questionable, because at that time everybody was saying that the people in government just brought their cronies to come and hand over the electricity sector to them, and clearly you can see that they're not doing what they're supposed to do. And then you are talking about, then they look at what the Minister of Power did. The next solution is that remove subsidy on and hike electricity consumption. Why can't they use the same powers to increase electricity generation? Why can't they sack some of those people that were inefficient?
So, Prof, would you say that this level of should I say complicity on the part of the executive as well as our elites is what is ensuring this level of bureaucracy? Because, like Jaffa did mention, the executive order came on board 28th of June. This is August, and then the president promised that we would have some relief for 6 months. This is August going. Very soon we'll be getting into September. That's 3 months gone, and up till now there is nothing. the president had already given a standing order to the minister of the economy, the minister of finance, and the minister of trade, industry, and investment to ensure that a speedy implementation of this order was exercised. Having established all of this, what do you see? What do you think is the reason for the delay in implementing this order? Because, like Jaffer said, this is the most express form of law a president could ever give.
That's true. Because me too, I'm surprised. Because it was on the 28th of June that the president gave the order that food stuff and pharmaceuticals should be imported free of duty.
Yes, import free.
Yes, because we expected that maybe 2 weeks down the line, goods would have started coming in, because that's the normal thing.
Yes.
But it was shocking that up to August, this is 2 months after, today is 27th of
August, yes.
August, this is exactly 2 months that the president gave the directive and nothing has happened. Because we expected that the economy would have been flooded with maybe foreign rice and other things that would have reduced the price of those imported goods. But unfortunately, nothing like that has happened. And as early this month, I was reading through the papers and I noticed that they were even debating on the kind of people that they should be allowed to, companies that would be allowed to import this foodstuff. Some were saying companies that have operated for at least 5 years, some companies that have operated for at least 10 years and things like that. Because the feeling was that the people in government will give the contract to their cronies,
Yes.
who will just rush and register companies and do that. So I don't even know really. But because it is a presidential order, so it's not supposed to have all these bureaucratic bottlenecks.
What about the National Assembly? What do you think the National Assembly should be doing at this critical point in time? Because the National Assembly is always quick to call people for oversight functions in the name of trying to make sure that they are doing their own part of their duty. But what do you think the National Assembly should be doing at this point in time?
The National Assembly are the representatives of the people, so they are supposed to protect the interests of the people. And even though the policy is not a very good policy, but at least we believe that it will bring
Some
immediate
relief.
relief for the people. So we expected that the National Assembly would have called the ministers concerned to order. They're supposed to invite them to explain why the delay in the implementation of the presidential order.
That's right. Now, Prof, I would want us to take a look at something. Altogether we have up to 130 pharmaceutical industries in Nigeria. And out of these 130, due to inability to pay, duties on importation of the product, only 9 have been listed on the stock exchange, market. Now, even the 9 would have been okay to serve the country. If we have these pharmaceutical industries that are functional, EMZO is one of the highest. Now, why are we still having high level of importation of the pharmaceutical? We import medicine, drugs directly from India and from other nations. No iota of production is going on here. Not even the packaging. Some are packaged right from there and brought here. We'll only just offload and take it to the medicine stores. So what are we really talking about? Are we mocking ourselves as a nation, or we are truly serious with the business of pharmaceuticals?
Yeah, thank you. Just like it's not just the pharmaceuticals, it's the same thing with other aspects of the economy. Because most of these goods that we consume here, some of them are imported straight from foreign countries for our consumption. So the pharmaceuticals, just like I told you from the beginning, the government is supposed to create an enabling environment for these pharmaceuticals to operate. But now the cost of production, like I said, is very high for pharmaceuticals, just like any other company.
Any sector, yeah.
So it becomes very difficult for them.
Is it due to the exchange rate?
Due to exchange rate, due to removal of subsidy on electricity.
What about the monetary policy as well?
And the monetary policy itself, because the pharmaceutical may need to borrow money, and the cost of borrowing money is very high, so they may be discouraged. And sometimes the cost of producing locally may be very expensive. And when it becomes very expensive, it's better to import from other countries where the cost is low comparatively, because that's the basis of trade anyway.
Yes.
When we used to teach international economics, that was the basis of trade. With this comparative advantage.
Yes.
Because when you look at the cost of producing locally and cost of importing, if you discover that the cost of importing is cheaper, then it will be better to import than to produce.
But how do we get to how do we get to a position where we make sure that the cost of production locally is very, very inviting? Because whether we like it or not, Nigeria needs to get out of the woods. If the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria would cry out to the federal government that cost of production is too high at 35%, why are we not trying to make sure that the local industries in Nigeria survive?
Thank you very much. That is one of the major problems. And the Nigerian Manufacturers Association of Nigeria has been crying.
Yes.
They have been crying that the cost of production is very high. And some of the factors we have enumerated here are some of the factors responsible for the high cost of local production. You see, for effective production, we always insist that the infrastructure facility should be provided. And you observe that when you go around Nigeria, you discover that the infrastructure facilities are not there. Moving goods from the rural areas to the urban centers is very, very expensive. In most countries, you go there, goods are transported through the train. These are cargo trains that move goods.
And you remember cargo planes?
They are very cheap to move goods. Even now, planes are cheaper than the use of vehicles.
Yes.
And if you observe in Nigeria, most goods in Nigeria are transported through these trucks, which is very expensive. Look at the removal of fuel subsidy has compounded that problem now. So you see, in other countries, what we do is to try to reduce the cost of production. But in Nigeria, policies that have been put in place, instead of reducing the cost of production, is rather increasing the cost of production. Like, look at the electricity subsidy removal. You know, before, maybe you saw the outcry of Nigerian universities, because I remember they wrote something about ABU. ABU used to pay a bill of 1 point something billion naira per year for electricity, and then I think from what I saw, that changed from 1 point something billion to about I think about 12 point something billion. And they were crying, how were they going to get that money to pay for that kind of electricity? And universities are more or less like research institutions. Yes. So
they don't make much money.
Yes, they don't make much money. So look at that. And so if you look at what is happening in the university, then you should imagine what is happening to industries. Because even before the removal of this subsidy on electricity, most industries in Nigeria were crying about the high bills, electricity bills. So these are some of the
problems. Another paradox
that is the same problem in the pharmaceutical industry.
Yes, another paradox we need to look at is the fact that out of these very many pharmaceutical industries that we have mentioned, are you aware that there is none is owned and operated by the government?
There's none.
Now, if we don't have even one operated by the government, how do we expect the subsidized level of price in the market for the pharmaceuticals? Because no one is competing. Government is not competing with the private sector. Nothing is happening. So how are we going to be come to a place where the prices of this?
Under normal circumstances, pharmaceuticals are not supposed to be sold in the market, in the open market.
Yeah.
Under normal circumstances, you see, in other countries, when you go, you can only get a drug when it is prescribed for you. Not like in Nigeria, where you can walk into any pharmacy and buy any drug you want and go. In other countries, it's not done like that. It has to be prescribed by a hospital or by a registered doctor or pharmacist. These are the only people that are qualified to do that. So if normally government, okay, let me answer the first question first.
Good.
Government is divesting from the economy. So even if government had pharmaceutical company, maybe would have privatized them or commercialized them.
But at least if they have shares in
No,
such
but
a-
there are ways to control the price of these things, because in most cases the subsidies are done in the hospitals, because this is the drug that you are producing, this is the cost of production, this is how much you are selling. So the government will say, okay, supply these drugs to the hospitals, even private hospitals. This is how much we'll pay you. Just like petroleum subsidy,
yes.
even the private marketers will be paid. So that is how it is done, if it is done transparently. Because in the hospital, I can come to the hospital, yes, this is the quantity of drugs that will supply to this hospital. This is how much it costs. So this is a subsidy
Yeah,
paid to the
because
hospital.
this system you're talking about actually exists in India and Switzerland.
Yes, and even what do you call this neighboring, is it Togo, close to Nigeria. It does.
So now, Prof, I know that lamenting over the economic woes of our country alone wouldn't be the solution. We have to take practical steps towards addressing our problems. The bigger question of all that we have talked about here would be, why has Nigeria refused to produce even when it has the capacity to do so?
Thank you very much. Well, Nigerians are making efforts, but the government sector is not providing the necessary enablement for the Nigerians to succeed. Because generally we believe that in Nigeria, people consider government things not theirs. Unfortunately, we are the government.
Maybe government is making them to feel so, don't you think so?
Possible. We are the government too. We are the government.
But
Because
Nigerians
either-
not feel that they are part of the government.
Yes, that is it. I agree with you completely. That is the problem. Because personally, if you ask me, I say I'm not part of the government.
Where you're working for the
But I'm
government.
working for the government.
And you are
The
the
work-
government.
I am the government.
Good.
So that is the problem.
So who is
Let
the
it-
government that we do not know, and who is the government that is
we
causing
know.
us?
So look at it. That is it. Because under normal circumstances, the duty of the government is to protect us. That is the primary responsibility of government. Protection. Are we being protected? Go to the rural areas. The farmers are running hater-skater. Even in the towns, that is what is happening. Is government really doing what it is supposed to do? Because government is supposed to provide security. Then the question that comes to mind is, what are the security agents doing in Nigeria? Is it because the government is not funding them properly? Or is it because that is the general belief that the security agencies are complicit in what is going on in Nigeria? Tell me, there's no way a ship will load fuel, crude oil in Nigeria and leave without the security people knowing, without the presidency authorizing that. And you saw what happened in the past.
Yes.
I think I was on this program some time back with Engineer Hans.
Yes.
Engineer Hans told us that it takes about 3 hours. He was a specialist in that area.
Yes.
It takes about 3 hours for a ship to turn.
Yeah.
So just turning 3 hours. So how come our security people will tell us that ships are loading and they don't know?
And they are
So-
manning those.
And they're manning those areas. So, you see, these are the issues we have. And that translates to all other sectors of the economy. Because for production to take place, like we said, some of these basic facilities are supposed to be in place. Good roads, electricity. Most companies in Nigeria complain that right from when I was a child, when I started learning economics, one of the major problems of industrialization in Nigeria is what? Lack of infrastructural facilities, which electricity is part of it. So right from when I started studying economics in secondary school, that was about over 40 years ago. And it's still the same problem we have today. So can we really say that the government is serious? Can we really say?
Okay, now, Prof, there is another question begging for answers. For us to have an executive order on food items and pharmaceuticals, which is aimed at improving the health sector of a country, why is it not possible for us to have health insurance cover on all citizens in the country? Because as we speak, Ghana has implemented this. Benin Republic, which is our direct neighbor and we supply electricity to them, have this in place. Why is it difficult for the government to give insurance cover on all citizens in terms of, because that's what we bring down the prices of pharmaceuticals. We have
also improve life expectancy as well.
Let me laugh now. Because even those of us that are enlisted on that program, when you go to the hospital, they'll tell you the cover is only for malaria, cough, any serious sickness you have.
It's taken out of it.
Taken out of it.
So what's the point of the health insurance?
So what is the point of the health insurance? So invariably, I'm agreeing
and if
with
the drug is very very costly,
I'm agreeing with you that there's no insurance cover in Nigeria for now. Even though the National Insurance Agency and the law is in place, but most Nigerians are not covered. And we are supposed to be paying a premium, and we are still paying the premium, but see, we are not covered. Even though when you compare Nigeria with these other countries, their population is not as much as we are. In fact, Benue State is bigger than Dahomey and Togo and the rest of them. So it is easier. But what I'm saying is that India is more populous than Nigeria, but the cover in India is more widespread for everybody. So just like we're saying, we have to go back to the planning stage. What do we really want to do to our lives? So the problem still goes back to the government and, so the national
I think we need to go on a break very quickly before we return. Still Daybreak Benue on Benue Television, and we have been engaging with Professor Ayila Mutav from the Department of Economics here in Benue State University. And as soon as we resume, I think Maureen was actually ready to take it up from there. So let's go on a break very quickly. Welcome back to the program. This is Daybreak Benue on Benue Television, and we are discussing executive order, the impact of executive order on pharmaceuticals and food items in Nigeria as passed by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Professor Ahilan Gutav has been talking to us here for quite a while now, and is still ready to fit more questions. I think, Maureen, I saw your body language was about throwing a question.
Yes. Thank you, Jafet. Prof, I was going to pose this question. What would you recommend that our executive do right? Because whether we like it or not, this has to do with the survival of Nigeria. We're talking about food, we're talking about health here. GlaxoSmithKline left Nigeria last year.
Yeah.
They cited reasons of forex, but after insider investigation, it turned out to be that they were operating at a loss. And you know that businesses are established for profit. So how would our government get Nigeria out of the woods in terms of ensuring that we can have stable production, stable food, and reasonable healthcare? Because if you look at countries like India, if you look at countries like Switzerland, their life expectancy, especially for Switzerland, is about 83 years.
30, yeah.
In Nigeria, it's 50 years. If you make it to 60, 70, it's a miracle.
Some of us are living on borrowed time.
So what would you recommend that the government do expediently? Because we're looking at the immediate. Nigerians are in a lot of pain. What can the government do immediately to ensure that this executive order brings some relief?
Okay, thank you very much. You see, like we said, they said the executive order on pharmaceuticals and food is temporary. So what I expect the government to do is that they should give immediate implementation, so that what is coming should come in, so that the prices of some of those things will reduce. Because, like I said, if the prices of pharmaceuticals come down, me too will be better off, because the much that I spend on drugs every month, I spend close to almost 1/4 of my salary on drugs. But if the prices come down, I'll be spending far less than that. And that applies to most Nigerians. So we pray that the Minister of the Economy, that what they're doing,
yeah,
and the Trade and Industry and the Central Bank should make sure that that policy becomes operational. They stop playing politics with it. They should stop playing politics with it.
It's all right.
As of now, that is what they are doing.
It's okay.
Then secondly, what I expect is that the government should turn its attention and focus it on local production, because that's the crux of the matter.
Where is the basis of the local production when all our industries are not functional?
That is what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
Because government should make sure that our industries are functional, particularly the food industries.
Yeah.
Because, and government can do that by reducing the level of insecurity. Because whether we like it or not, 75% of food production in Nigeria is carried out by these peasant farmers.
Local farmers.
By these peasant farmers. And if they are displaced on their farms, there's no way we can talk about food security in this country. There's no way. Because, okay, looking around you right here in Benue, you see what happens. Most people can't go to the farm. So, and if they can't go to the farm, there's no way they can produce. And what is happening in Benue is what is replicated in almost all the states of the Federation. So government should stop giving lip service to security. It should face the security situation squarely and tackle it. And once that is tackled, at least we'll be sure that within the next 1 year, maybe the output of food will increase and prices will be forced to come down. And the same thing, government should provide an enabling environment for other industries to operate. Just like we're talking about Dangote. Dangote alone can produce more than what we need in this country.
If he's supported.
If he's supported.
It's all right. Now,
and you know what is happening.
Yes. Now, Prof, we've been talking about this for quite some time now, but there is an aspect that we're leaving out. We are probably talking about the pharmaceuticals. some school of thought has made us to understand that up to 65% of the pharmaceutical products that we have in Nigeria are fake. So it is just like when you're sick, you take your money to go and buy more sickness to yourself. Now, the efficacy of the drug which you have rightly said that you depend on here on a daily basis is another thing that is in question after you spend all the money. So one would have thought ordinarily that Nigerian government should have tilted its attention towards ensuring that whatever is coming in terms of pharmaceuticals and food item. There was a time we had plastic rice in this country. People bought it. Rice that was manufactured by Chinese people. Now, there are times we have had, when you go to a medicine store or a pharmacy, they will tell you that this product is 1,500, but this one is 12,000. That's a clear definition of the fact that this particular product is fake. And now government is all paying attention to how these things are produced. It's paying attention to passing executive order. If we have executive order in this area and major part of what we are passing executive order on is fake, what are we doing?
Well, thank you very much. Before I go into that, let me tell you a story.
Please do.
I graduated from ABU in 1988. So when I was in ABU, I was there in the room with a pharmacy student. And the pharmacy student told us when we were discussing that his elder brother was into fake drugs production. So he has sent him to school to come and study, so that he will go and join me in the business, so that we'll be producing fake drugs. So I asked him, so you have come to train to come and learn how to go and kill people? And he said it innocently. So it was when we took on him that he realized the implication of what he just said. So that is what is happening around us. So imagine that guy is involved in fake drugs production. The number of people he must have killed by now.
So we have NAFDAC here. NAFDAC job is to oversee all of this.
Government has set up NAFDAC. Government has also set up SON.
A standard organization.
Standard organization. So these are charged with the responsibility of regulating the quality of products and even drugs, because NAFDAC is for drugs and food.
So who do we blame on the issue of fake drugs? Because we have Nigerian immigration and of course customs.
We have the customs as well.
And customs,
our borders.
How these things come in?
Like if we remember what happened during late Dorothy Akunyile's time as NAFDAC DG, he exposed on national television that some Nigerians will go to India or any of these foreign companies and tell them to produce substandard pharmaceuticals for the Nigerian government, for the Nigerian people, and those things were imported into the country and contributed to the killing of the death of many Nigerians. So you see, our agencies are not doing what they are supposed to do. Because I was even quarreling with a custom, because a custom officer stopped me on the way and was asking for the custom papers for my vehicle. I say you are supposed to be at the border and check the importation of this vehicle before coming here to ask me. So I bought this car in Nigeria. I didn't import the car. So how do you expect me to be talking about customs?
And where did the car pass to Nigeria?
So you see, these are the things. Our agencies are not doing what they are supposed to do, because under normal circumstances, our custom, our immigration, because they are supposed to work in conjunction with NAFDAC and SON to make sure that quality is maintained. So that is it. And even here in Nigeria, most of these fake drugs are produced right here in Nigeria. You see that so many companies have been closed down for manufacturing fake drugs, but these are the unfortunate ones. The fortunate ones are still operating. And just like the example you gave, even though it may not necessarily be because this one is better quality than this one, it depends on the company. Because there are some companies that are producing locally here. Maybe their cost may be lower than the ones that are being imported.
Definitely.
So, like most times, if you want to buy paracetamol, the Emzor most times cost more than the other ones. So it depends on the cost of production of these companies. It may not necessarily in
and
terms
even
of
Panadol
quality.
used to be more expensive than
Yes.
Emzor itself.
I know Panadol, like the advertisement say, if it's not Panadol. So you know that Panadol itself,
Yes.
as a company, is more expensive than all the other ones. So it may not necessarily be that. But then our agencies are supposed to be up and doing to make sure that quality is maintained. Because, like we said, you spend a lot of money to buy drugs that compound your problem. So that's the problem we have.
It's all right. Now, finally, Prof, I'd like to also, as an economist, you started speaking as an economist. It was the pain of a Nigerian citizen that took you to talking about other things as well. I would want us to also end on the note of the economic point of view. What area do you think the government needs to rejig in terms of improving the economy, not only on the issue of pharmaceuticals and food items, but what necessary first aid steps do you think government needs to take to be able to stand back the economy, at least even if it's not where it was, but give the people the leverage to begin to have cause to smile? Because from what you have said and from what the revelations we have had from every other person, no one is smiling in Nigeria now.
No one, except maybe the people that are in top echelons of government that are just picking anyhow. They are the only ones that I enjoy.
Yes.
So what I would suggest the government should do, first of all, is that government should focus on production. Because in the immediate effect, there may be no immediate relief. But at least we should see the government making efforts so that in the near future, things will change. And that is why, if it focuses on production, this will solve a lot of problems in Nigeria. We've got a problem of foreign exchange, prices, all these things will be tackled.
So the focus on foreign direct investment is misplaced at the moment.
It's misplaced. Because the government itself has enough money to give to local entrepreneurs. They can give one digit at one digit interest rate. You don't expect the people to go to the bank to borrow money at 38% to come and invest in economy like Nigeria. Because the focus of the government should be to reduce the cost of production. And the only way government can do that is by giving soft loans to these industries that are producing, to encourage them. That will also discourage people, these companies that were living in Nigeria.
Yes.
You know,
multinationals.
These multinationals that were operating here in Nigeria, many of them are going. And by the time they left, a lot of people will be laid off.
Unemployment.
So, yes, unemployment. There will be increase in unemployment.
Even the quality of goods
and
and
the quality
services
of
will also depreciate.
produce will also fall. So if government focuses on reducing the cost of production by granting loans to some of these at one digit interest rates, it will help. And many Nigerians will also want to be involved in production.
It's right.
Now, if I go into production, I know that I'm going to lose. So why should I even go into production?
As a business person,
As a business person,
because it's
because,
right.
So that is, I think that is a primary area that government should address.
It's
By
right.
doing that, it will help.
It's right. Well,
Thank you very much,
I must
Prof.
thank you very much indeed, Professor Ayela Mutav from Economics Department, Benue State University, for your vocal and explicit position on the issue of, executive, order on pharmaceuticals and food items. We look forward to having more of your opinion here on Benue Television.
Thank you very much.
And we look forward to
Thank
a
you.
better economy as well.
Yeah.
And so this is where we have to let you go so that we can take a look at the paper. We'll go on a break very shortly. When we return, we'll take a look at the front pages of our national dailies and we'll call it a wrap thereafter. Stay with us. Once again, we'd like to say thank you for being with us on Daybreak Benue here on Benue Television. We are going to take a look at the paper, the front pages of our papers right now. And let's begin with the Vanguard newspaper. The first one here, the banner headline says, outrage as federal government pegs age for writing WASI at 18 years. And then we have this one here that we're talking about the Vanguard paper here. And then the writer says, it will draw back education and NUT will go to court. And then parents will respond later. We want meeting of stakeholders and Konwa. Why are parents rushing their children? ASU. And then we also have this one here that said flat keys 49 in Jigawa, Adamawa, Taraba displays thousands. You can find that on page 15 of the Vanguard paper. And separate office of HGF from AGFG PDP governors. So that's all coming from the Vanguard newspaper.
And from the Nation, above the newspaper masthead, we have under 18 pupils barred from writing WAEC exams. This is on page 2 of the Nation newspaper. Rwanda's acquisition of NAOC in line with Public Petroleum Industry Act. This is on page 8 of the Nation. Now the lead story of the Nation, Tinubu, GDP surge points, GDP, I beg your pardon, surge points to an economy on right path. The rider MBS leaks growth to industry service sectors. And this you will find on page 2. At the last headline here, accelerated stabilization advancement economic plan takes off. Initiative to boost economic development. This is from the Minister of Coordinating Economy, Mr. Wale Iduna, and this you'll find on page 2 of the Nation.
And so let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper now. The Guardian newspaper here, let's take a look at those. Falana rallies NBA against illegal arrest, detention by police, others. And we also have this one that says opposition working for Tinubu's second term, Lukman alleges. Yeah, you can find that on page 3 of the paper. That's the Guardian newspaper. We also have this one. Tinubu hints at economic recovery amid inflation deficit concerns. You can find that on page 6. And we also have this one. NARD begins warning strike, demands immediate rescue of kidnapped member. That's talking about Ganiat,
Yeah.
Dr. Ganiat.
Yeah, those are Ghanaians.
And then Oshun confirms monkeypox activates emergency response. You can find that on page 7 of the paper. And come enlist international tracers to recover 5 trillion naira assets from debtors. That's business page 15 of the paper. And police arrest 97 suspects of Abuja attack. Hariwa urges prosecution. You can find that on page 30 of the paper. And that's all coming from the Guardian newspaper this morning.
Okay, from the Daily Trust, underneath the newspaper masthead, MRA condemns incessant harassment of journalists, I beg your pardon, by police. Is on page 6. Borno Yobe Adama children battling malnutrition escalation. This is from UNICEF, and the details are on page 28 of Daily Trust. Bandits abduct 7 farmers in Kaduna, demand 2 million naira as ransom. This is on page 5. The lead story, and this is very interesting. 21 states seek 1.65 trillion loans. despite 40% rise in FAAC, that's the Federal Allocation Revenues. A rider 7.6 trillion naira released to states, local governments in 1 year, 20% of June allocation, enough to build 320 primary healthcare centers. Experts urge accountability. Now you find these details on page 4, the last one. And it's from Obasanjo. Youths angry, there will be trouble if we don't act. This is on page 6 of the Daily Trust. And that's it from here.
And so this is where we have to call it a wrap on the show. We must appreciate all of us and you for staying glued to Benue Television. This is where it happens every day. We have promised to continue to be very objective and balanced in our reportage, especially when it comes to Daybreak Benue. We'd like to appreciate you for your viewership. Those at the back room, we want to say thank you so much for your support. Here in the studios of Benue Television, Daybreak Benue will make a return by tomorrow, as time as usual. My name is Japhet Kwahom.
Thank you for staying with us on Daybreak today. My name is Maureen Hill. Do stay tuned for the rest of our programs and have a pleasant day. See you tomorrow.